So to become an Avenger, are there like trials or an interview?
Just don't do anything I would do. And definitely don't do anything I wouldn't do. There's a little gray area in there, and that's where you operate.
Oh.
All right?
That's not a hug. I'm just grabbing the door for you.
All right, kid. Good luck out there.
Good luck. Good luck, Spider-Man. Let's start the show.
Welcome to Cordkillers. Our mission to report the intel from the front lines of the cord-cutting revolution so you, my friends, have the information you need to watch the stuff you love when you want, where you want, and whatever device you want. I'm Tom Merritt.
Hey, man, I'm Brian Brushwood. What if I wanted was Sony to stop making Spider-Mans that I hated and started making Spider-Mans that I liked? Would that be possible?
That might just be possible if you like this particular Spider-Man we showed at the top of the hour.
Can I tell you something weird? I love this Spider-Man. I love the setup of him. I love his costume. I love the fact that the eyes emote and all that stuff and that they have a built-in reason for all that. I love the fact that it's built into the MCU. I didn't love this trailer. I love the fact that he has who's Don Quixote's sidekick, Sancho Panza now. Wait, is that right?
Yeah.
Or Pancho Sanza. One of those.
Now I don't know.
Yeah, right. They both sound right. But the production quality, I don't know, between the colorfulness and the funny beats throughout, it just felt like a cheaper production than any of the other Spider-Man's, and I'm sure it's not. I'm sure it's going to be a great show, but I just didn't love this trailer the way the rest of the world did.
I liked it well enough. I thought the Robert Downey Jr. bits kind of fell flat.
Yeah,
for
right?
me. And I'm hoping those are just because that's the ones they had available for the trailer because it's so early and there are better bits in there. So between like maybe looking a little 99-cent store and stunt casting, let's ask our guest on today's show, Ek from Hockey Buzz, to weigh in. What did you think of that Spider-Man trailer?
I like it. I don't know. I'm just all fired up for Spider-Man to be part of this whole thing. It was made with the old Spider-Man TV show from the 70s.
Oh, sure.
I just
60s.
got my son into that the other day. I found it on YouTube, and oh my gosh, I forgot that was literally my favorite show back then.
No kidding.
That and Ultraman. So just getting Spider-Man involved. The trailer is like you said. It looks like it was thrown together. We need something quickly because this is starting, whatever, a year from now or whatever it is. But
yeah, it's in July, so it's
I'm just excited
almost
for it to exist.
Yeah, I suspect it'll be a dang fine free-for-all. Probably the best Spider-Man movie ever.
Absolutely, 100%. I'm going to try and keep agreeing with that.
right up until the credits roll. And then you start saying, well, maybe there's an after-credits bit that saves the whole thing.
All right, let's get into our primary target today. And it's you, Tim Cook. You're our target. Well, actually, your Apple TV is our target. Apple's TV app is out as of today, Monday. You can get it for your iPhone, your iPad, and your Apple TV as part of iOS 10.2 and tvOS 10.1. So on the mobile devices, update your operating system and it will replace the videos app. On your TV, update the operating system and it'll just show up and knock the music app down a row. It tracks the shows you're watching starting now that you've installed it and sends you into the right service to watch. It can send you into the right spot on a partially watched episode. Let's say you pause it on your Apple TV. It can pick right up if you go through the TV app on your phone, for instance. It'll notify you when new episodes are available, and it will begin making recommendations of what to watch based on the viewing habits as long as you watch them through the TV app. HBO and Hulu work with the new TV app. CW works with the new TV app. Netflix and almost everything else does not. I think they have like 4 apps on board. Recode's Peter Kafka points out that Netflix does work with the Xfinity X1 box, which has a similar guide feature. So we're in this weird position where Netflix is working with Comcast on something that they're not working with Apple on. And Apple also launched its single sign-on feature for cable companies, which does not work with Comcast. It does work for subscribers of DirecTV, Dish, and Sling TV. But again, not all channels and not all apps, Brian.
Man, that's a lot to unpack. Well, let's start with overall impressions because I know you guys both got hands-on with this, and I have to apologize. Even every time we've ever talked about this app, and even though I'm sure you've said iOS, I've only thought of the tvOS. I've only thought of this as being an Apple TV thing because I never watch content on my phone or even on the iPad. The iPad is just a Hearthstone machine. It never occurred to me to download it and actually get hands-on with it, but you guys did. Tell me what it was like for you.
Yeah, well, it's not much because if you haven't used it, it doesn't have any viewing habits to play with. It hooked up with three of my apps, HBO, CW, and Hulu, and I don't see why I would use it when it doesn't really bring in all of the apps that I use. It doesn't work with Sling or PlayStation View or Netflix or any of the other stuff I use there.
So yeah, I used it today and was surprised that it didn't pull in anything. And so I had shows that I was already caught up on that I'll need to go in and on Hulu, you can start an episode, you just have to hit play and then it'll show up. Though I had some wonkiness where it didn't remove an episode that I had finished watching. And then it works with Hulu. It showed the FX Now app as working so some of those cable channel apps probably work. It said the music app worked, which seemed weird to me because there's no video content on there yet. Though that's something we've talked about as being forthcoming. I don't know. I could. It's a weird time to launch it because so many shows are on their fall break. And so,
I mean, do you think that maybe that is an indication that they want to get it in now while it's incomplete and doesn't really have a spotlight on it, and so that maybe this is an opportunity for them to try to, tell these other partners that they're
update over the holidays
exactly, and they say, hey, we now have an install base of this many people, get on board, because in order to start a snowball, you have to have some kind of nucleus, and maybe that's the strange timing here.
Yeah, because. Ideally, most of these updates would be seamless, right? With the Apple TV, you're not ever supposed to hit upgrade, and then with the phones and stuff, people will generally just do it, but it takes time for that to propagate. And so, I guess if you give it time over this holiday, where people are getting new devices, then maybe that's not the craziest
I think that's
thing,
probably ascribing more intentionality to this.
Yeah.
That I'm sure they'll use it in that way. My guess is this is the time when it was ready, and that's the way Apple usually does things. I'm curious, what your thought is on this.
Yeah, I mean, my question is, I heard you talking on a Cordkillers episode that I watched recently, Tom, about, I think, Brian, you asked Tom, is Eileen figured this all out, this whole cord cutting thing, and my wife Jody's the same way. My wife's a PhD, she's way smarter than I am, and she still has not figured it out. And I'm wondering if this Apple thing will be the thing that helps people figure it out, eventually.
And I think that's the big question is it's clear that what their goal is to be the one environment to rule them all. And that's indicated by the fact that they remapped buttons on the channel. And, they don't mess around with the remote.
It screwed me up really bad today. Normally you hit the TV button on the app. It doesn't say TV or home. It's the little TV icon. And normally you would hit it and it would just take you to the home menu. The first time you hit it after this update, it brings up a window that says, hey, we're not going to take you to the home menu. We're taking you back to the TV app. And so if you want to go back to the home menu, you've got to hit it again, or you have to hold the menu button. It's not weird, but it's a significant change.
Well, here's and first of all, I think that's a reasonable way to remap the UI, because if you think about it, it's branching. You got the home page, and now you're in the TV environment. In the TV environment, they are saying if you're here to watch TV, this is pretty much your home page, because this is where you'll access all of your sub services underneath there. And then if you're in, let's say eventually you're in Netflix and you want to go out, it knows you don't want to suddenly play Angry Birds. It knows you want to go out to the main Apple TV menu, or at least assumes that, and in which case a double tap to get you to the main menu I think is fine. To me, what's interesting about this is the gap that we're feeling between where they want to go. I think is a very, very smart place to go. They want to be the one environment, and we've talked about this, where it passes the babysitter test, it passes the Cordkillers, wife's test and all that stuff. They're not there. So in the meantime, it forces consumers to ask the tangible, very concrete question: what problem does this solve right now? And it sounds like there's not a specific problem that this solves.
I mean, the single sign-on is meant to solve the problem of, I hate having to sign into all these apps every time I get a new one. I want to just take my Sling TV credentials and be signed in, because it's a pain to sign in on these boxes. That will be the case should they get all the services and apps on there, right? Like, I use Sling TV, so I signed in with Sling TV, and there was one app when I signed on that it worked with, FX Now, which I didn't even have. Whereas I have Sci-Fi, and the Sci-Fi app is part of single sign-on, but the Sci-Fi app isn't authenticated through Sling TV. So it didn't work with Sling TV, although it would work with DirecTV. So it's not going to be the simplification for people if they're all having to think about now which services actually work with this. And I think the same goes for the TV app. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, Brian, that this is meant to be my home screen. Like all the things I want to watch will show up here. And if every service I want to watch is part of it, it absolutely is brilliant for that, because it's just going to get me past thinking about apps and chiclets and go right to the shows I want to watch. But if the shows I want to watch are on Netflix and they're not on there, it just breaks all that, because now I have to think, well, now how do I get back to the other screen and find the Netflix, and which shows are on Netflix and which shows were in the TV app, and is that service part of that? And that undermines it.
So you got hands-on with this, so please disavow me of my confusion, because when I hear single sign-on, I just assume it's just by single sign-on you tell it all of your passwords for all of your services or whatever.
No. It's single sign-on for your authentication. So if I am a subscriber to DirecTV, Dish, or Sling, I can use this. Eventually, they would like to have Comcast and Spectrum and all of them on board. And it's single sign-on. So I sign in once as a, let's say, DirecTV user, and then it will automatically sign me on to the Sci-Fi app, the NBC app, the Bravo app, the A&E app. So I don't have to go into each one of those and sign on.
Got it. And authenticate each time.
Don't you think that this was supposed to be out with the new Apple TV originally, that they wanted this to be ready by that point?
Oh, I'm sure.
And I think that this whole mapping of the remote is a perfect example of that, right? Like they should have a new remote for this, right? There should be a remote for this or a new Apple TV for this, but the timing.
I don't know.
Didn't work out,
I mean,
so
I always thought I never used that TV button because the menu button does that for me. Like if you press it enough times, it takes you back to the home screen anyway.
But the remote's been a disaster the whole time.
There was a little bit of
that's one of the reasons I can't stand the Apple TV. Is the remote is you always feel like it's always upside down. First off, when you grab it, it's always upside down, because it's just something about it makes you think it's upside down in your hand.
It's symmetrical.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. So it drives you crazy. And this would be perfect if they really launched like Apple with what they are, which is UI geniuses, right? That's their thing. This remote should be so obvious to be an Apple product.
Yeah, well, and keep in mind, I don't think the hardware is the limitation, and I don't think even the software is the limitation. The limitation is, of course, the partnerships, the agreements, the getting everybody to jump off the cliff at the exact same time. And to be honest, I think Netflix is right to hold out. Netflix will be the last one standing. Netflix is basically pulling an Apple or pulling a Beatles. The Beatles steadfastly refused to do digital music, and then they waited until the whole world had moved on, and then they stepped out into the spotlight and everyone freaked out. And that's what Netflix wants to do if it's going to play ball on this.
I don't know what it's waiting to get though. Like, does it want user data? Does it want? I don't know what it wants and why it wants to inconvenience its users by saying, well, we're not going to be part of that app. I don't see what advantage it gains.
Does it want Apple to look stupid?
Yeah. No. Well, think about it. It is the most powerful draw. It has the greatest gravity of any of the video apps in all of the universe, right? So if that's the case, why would it lend its gravity to this other ecosystem and where it makes it's built?
But it's not another ecosystem. This is just a way to get to apps.
Well, no.
And so you're saying, I don't want people to get. It would be like Netflix in the early days said, we're going to be on everything, and it was a huge boon for them. Now they're saying, oh, well, we don't want you to access us in this route. We want you to take this other route that's actually harder.
Here's what it boils down to. Right now, Netflix has, when people dive into Netflix, they live on the surface of Netflix, and the thought of leaving Netflix means you got to board a spaceship and go to some other app. That's how they like it, and that's the right thing for them to do for their business. If they move into, this free-flowing, just take subways to every other app land, they probably will see a loss of some of their stickiness. And that's what they're marketing right now, is that people dive into Netflix and they live there nonstop. So it would not make sense for them to make it easier for people to leave and go to other places.
I think that exaggerates how people watch stuff. Yes, they have to give up a little bit of we want people to come into Netflix first to find something to watch, but it's not like people live in Netflix and never watch anything else ever.
No, but I do think that, and I think some of the stuff that we've reported on and the Nielsen numbers and stuff suggest that once you dive into Netflix, I mean, look, this is the reason YouTube is trying to become more Netflix like. This is the reason that YouTube is focusing on watch minutes, because they want that. Netflix is the kind of thing you turn it on, you leave it on, and it goes all day, and they own you for that. YouTube is trying to get there by encouraging people to make longer content and to encourage engagement that gets people coming back every day for new content. So with that being the case, I mean, I don't think it is an exaggeration. I think that Netflix is in a dominant winning position right now, and it makes sense for them to just.
I guess the point I'm making is they're in a winning position against Hulu and HBO and other things. So this would be like saying we're not going to be on the Apple TV home screen.
No, but that's just it. Is they're right now in terms of streaming. They're in a winning position against all of old television, all of television.
But what I'm saying is this isn't the thing they're competing with. This is a user interface to get people into your service.
Sorry, go ahead, Ek.
But don't you think that they, in a way, are they are saying, this is our world now, Apple. Like Apple's big on everything, and they've dominated everything. But you're coming into our world, and we're going to show you this is our world. We don't necessarily, and it's an interesting kind of statement that with Roku and with everything else, Netflix doesn't need Apple right away and isn't just jumping through hoops like maybe Apple expected they would.
I guess where I'm coming from is I don't think that's why Netflix is doing this. I think it's either a more technical reason or something else, because they're doing it with Comcast. It's the exact same thing. Comcast has a guide that says, hey, here are all the things to watch. And Netflix went to the trouble to work with their hated enemy, Comcast, to integrate there. Why wouldn't they work with Apple?
Because
I think there's something else going on.
If I was going to speculate wildly, which is all I'm good for, I would say it's because working with Comcast opens up more opportunities for people to come into their planet, whereas working with Apple TV opens up more opportunities for people to leave their planet. But I would love for people to write us at cordkillers@gmail.com and tell me I'm wrong, because I'm good at that.
Comcast subscribers can now log into apps for ESPN and HBO Go on the Sony PlayStation 4. I'm only throwing that in here because we're talking about this single sign-in and how every provider has to hook up with every app for this eventually to become something where something like single sign-on can work. So there's more there. And then before we get out of the primary target, getting back to Apple, Bloomberg sources say Apple is negotiating with movie studios for the rights to offer higher-priced rentals of movies still in theaters. Bloomberg says Fox, Warner Brothers, and Universal Pictures are all considering a deal with iTunes, some wanting to make movies available as soon as 2 weeks after their theatrical release. Theaters usually get a 90-day exclusive. The studios are considering prices, according to this source, somewhere between $25 and $50, and are even willing to go with a partner other than Apple if the talks didn't work out.
Ek, what do you think? Does this do anything for you?
This is fascinating. This is the magic that everybody's been waiting for, right? I'll pay $50 to watch the movie on the opening night at home in my beautiful theater room, but I just can't see the theaters. I mean, there's so many alliances here. If that happens, we really are in a new world,
Well, I actually think this is a brilliant thing for Apple to focus on, and I think they can do it because they're so well positioned. They have a track record of being able to offer security on their stuff, which is what they worry about with piracy and so on. They have an entire brand based on some might say overpriced, we'll say high-end, hefty margin goods. They have an elite status. They have an install base, and they can. It's a two-way street. Apple wants to offer it, but they also want to be the exclusive number one destination for a thing. They missed the boat on television. They did it on music. They failed on television. They could do it for first-run movies if they position themselves quickly and because that's coming at this point, right?
No, I think you nailed it. But don't you think? I'm sorry to interrupt, but don't you think that this makes pirating so much easier, though? I mean, this is really going to make pirating easy because if you can just videotape it with an HD camera in your home.
Well, if they will be able, as long as they could show the economic models that say you'll make more money even though piracy will happen. I think that's all that the.
I mean,
movie
piracy
theaters...
always happens.
Yeah, correct.
So makes it. This doesn't make piracy easier. Okay. This could theoretically make higher quality pirated copies available 2 weeks earlier, but the other thing is, piracy doesn't really have an effect on this stuff.
So
it's never been shown to. So. I think what's the most interesting about this to me is everyone's pitching this as an Apple story, and it's not. It's a studio story.
Oh, the fact that they're
went
even
to Apple
interesting
first because they're like, Yeah, Apple gets this. They've been doing it longer than other people, or the cinema now just doesn't have the footprint. Vudu hasn't been doing it as long and arguably doesn't have the footprint either. Let's go to the top store. It's Apple. Let's see but it's the studios getting together and saying, we want to do this. And if we all get a good deal that we like, we can bully the theaters into accepting it.
So Dark Redeemer in the chat says, wait, so I have to spend more money to watch a movie at home with lower quality and sound? Sure, I don't have to deal with the hassle of going to the theater, but the whole point of the theater is that it's supposed to be the better experience. And yes, it is. People want the better experience, but what you don't realize is there are entire giant chunks of the United States for whom the very thought of going to a theater with all those peoples and bodies and sounds and distractions and the risk of the jackass factor is so painful and so miserable that they would gladly pay 8 times the cost for the chance to watch it alone.
Well, and don't forget, when you pay $25, let's say, to rent this movie at home, in where I go to movies are $12 to $15 a ticket. But let's say they're only $8 a ticket. Where you are, or $6 a ticket. If you have a family of 4, that's still the same price, and you get the comfort of your own home. So it depends on how many people you're taking to see the movies and how much that lack of hassle is worth it for you.
To me, this is a party thing, like we're having a party, we're showing the movie, and you get the new Star Wars movie, you're having every kid in the neighborhood over to watch it.
Yeah, if you got the best home theater in the bunch, yeah.
And it's 2 weeks later, right? Like the people who really want the top quality picture and sound of the theater will still go to the theater and get it.
That's exactly what it is. This is a situation where dad has already seen it. The 3 kids have already seen it, but mom and grandma hasn't seen it. So they're going to watch it again. The kids went and saw Moana a second time because the mom, Bonnie hadn't seen it. And this was not the only way to do it.
Yeah, movies, by the way, are ridiculously expensive here. What are they for you guys generally?
I can't go if I take my kids to the Alamo Drafthouse. It's $60.
Like $12 a ticket or so.
Yeah, it's $60 to go plus high-end food prices.
It's $10.25 where I live per ticket.
Okay, so for all 3 of this, if we get 3 to 4 people to watch this rental at home,
or just have our family, it's right now, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And they also went to Apple because aren't Apple the people who have all the money? Isn't that the other thing that you always hear? Like, of all the people, the Apple people have the money, so we're going to go to Apple because those people might spend $50.
Because those are the people who will spend money on stuff. Yeah, the Apple means the Apple customers.
Right,
if you're confused about
Although
that.
it's accurate either interpretation. Apple does have all the money.
That's what's so confusing.
The Apple customers
Apple has all the cash
always
itself, too.
pay more for things.
Exactly. But Apple customers usually have more money to spend. So that makes sense. And therefore, we ask all of those Apple customers in the audience to fork over to patreon.com/Cordkillers.
Yeah, man, we're an independent production and we only survive by your good graces. Ek was one of our first major donors. How did it feel to be a patron early on?
It felt amazing. And I would have kept doing it forever. I love you guys. And the second Tom announced he was doing, I did it with the Daily Tech News show as well. I think that's the greatest thing in the world. I really like it.
There's something about that feeling of knowing that you did it. You personally just clicked a button, and most people will never even feel on the credit card. I know Ek definitely fell down on his credit card, but most people will never notice it month to month. And if you do ever notice it, it'll be the cost of a coffee or something, and you'll feel really good about what you did.
Yeah. So please help us out. Patreon.com/Cordkillers. Now we'll tell you how to watch. Not a bossy way.
I'll boss you around. You're going to watch this.
Sit up straight. Center yourself in front of the screen. No, it's not like that. This is about the streaming services, the devices, the things you need to use to watch stuff. And TiVo has some more leaks pointing to a cloud DVR service that could be coming, not just for the TiVo Bolt, but for the codename Mantis box that has been rumored. There's been previous leaks about Mantis that worked with a cloud DVR. There was an FCC filing about it. But That's Not Funny posted a picture of a TV screen from a TiVo Bolt that said cloud recording feature no longer available. So that implies that this feature might be coming to the TiVo Bolt, or at least they're playing around with it. A TiVo website setup page refers to a product called Maverick. And TiVo has also filed a trademark with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office on Maverick, M-A-V-R-I-K. There also appears to be an Amazon Android app listing in the Amazon store that describes itself as an over-the-air streaming diskless cloud DVR TiVo device called Mantis. So it's a lot of tea leaves to read, but it looks like TiVo's developing this cloud-based DVR service.
On the one hand, yeah, of course, everything should go to the cloud. That makes perfect sense. On the other hand, of all the places to give cloud-based DVR, a fully functioning local-based DVR is an odd place. What is the benefit in that transition phase? Because it could be that they're coming out with a new device that's all cloud storage only. It's TiVo Cloud.
That's the Maverick, the supposed Mantis/Maverick.
Correct. Right? But I'm fascinated by this idea of pushing it to existing devices that have hard drives. Do you think that could be like an archiving feature? Do you think it's it's like, hey, you're at your limit for the hard drive, press this button and we'll take your oldest stuff and back it up to the cloud, which for your whatever fee we're gonna keep around forever, as long as you're a subscriber.
I mean, yeah, there's some reasons to do it I can think of. One is that here's some extra storage without having to hack the box or add a hard drive. The other would be, you've got a Maverick in one room that's recorded things, so you'll want access to the cloud DVR service to be able to get access to whatever the Maverick has recorded, right? So it doesn't.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, no, if you have a that does make sense.
Or watch it with your app, like you would watch like a Slingbox or something like that. Like you could watch your recordings with an app easier this way too. That would work well because I have a TiVo Bolt which I love, and I do want some of them to be. I do like the fact that it is recorded onto my Bolt, though. I still like that because it is so efficient and so quick, and there's no deal having to worry about your Wi-Fi connection or anything like that. So I would miss that.
And of course, we're still waiting on actual details, shipping dates, price, etc. But this is the TiVo Aereo solution. Instead of providing you the antenna, they're saying you bring the antenna, plug it into your over-the-air device, because we know a lot of you guys who like Aereo have figured that part out already because you bought TiVos, and we'll then just take your signal and store it in the cloud for you with all of that Aereo cloud background that we bought.
That's some good reading of the TiVo leaves.
TiVo leaves.
I stole that joke from the chat. Sorry, perfect face radio.
Good job, Chad. All right, let's move on to Under Surveillance, where we tell you what to watch.
All about location.
Under Surveillance.
Here's what you're watching. Okay, this is it. This is an order. We're not messing around. Okay, no. Netflix posted today some cryptic messages like, "Have you seen Darkness?" to Twitter. Even put a disturbing video of a person jumping off a bridge that was, as if it had been shot with a cell phone.
With the text, "Have you seen death?" It's just random and macabre. Yeah.
There's also a normal trailer, and all of this is in support of a show called The OA, which comes out December 16th, and everyone will go watch after they see Rogue One, focusing on a young blind woman who was missing for 7 years and returns with sight.
Yeah, did you watch the trailer on this?
Yep.
I don't know what it's about. I guess there's a mystery, but then they make a big point of the mystery, of course, is where was she and what's going on. But then they make a point of it like, and I remember everything is the big thing at the end.
Yeah, she says I wasn't missing. I was there the whole time. So yeah, the whole thing is the mystery of like, okay, where was she? Why does she think she wasn't gone? What did she experience?
Yeah. All right. I'll bite. Although they really should get somebody over the age of 15 to run the Twitter account. That's posting.
Oh, you did. So you didn't like that at all. Huh?
Well,
you thought that was juvenile.
I mean, it just reads. It just reads as so 4chan, like they just posted a snuff film with no explanation or tie-in, and then
that scene is also in the trailer.
I get it, but they posted it with portrait mode on there, and the response is like, "Hey, some of us actually lost friends to suicide. Could you not put this in my feed?" And then they just shrug emoji because all Netflix gives them back, like, whatever, man. You haven't seen death.
This is coming from Britt Marling and Zal Batmangli, which I'm not pronouncing right, who are the filmmakers behind the 2011 film Sound of My Voice, which was a psychological thriller. So it's in that vein. If you like that sort of thing, you might like this.
Yeah.
It somehow reminds me of The Leftovers too, and I think it's just the visual style, maybe.
Might be.
Beck, what do you think of it?
Yeah, I agree with you on The Leftovers. That's exactly what I thought too. But it's very, very macabre. You're right, Brian. It really threw me too because I've known people who have jumped off of things as well. It just it threw me a lot.
Well,
I guess that's the
and
point,
what's funny,
right?
I don't think it's weird to do that in the show. I think it's going to be great in the show. But again, like as a standalone marketing thing, and it's not even like they're trying to make a point. Like we're edgy. We don't give a flying F word. We're Netflix.
Right.
New trailer for The Expanse from Sci-Fi was unveiled this week, showing off more of season 2. The Expanse is returning on February 1st, and we get to see the first appearance of a character named Bobby Draper, who, if you've read the books and are like me, you're very excited to see.
I liked The Expanse so much that I started reading the books. But amazingly, the books or the show did such a good job of capturing the books that I got bored of the books because I'm like, yeah, man, it's just the show. And I stopped reading.
So most of the time, I want to admit this, most of the time, I'm the guy who's like, hey, we can all have differing opinions on things. Things don't work for some people who don't work for others. Let's not get mad. But when you tell me you found the books boring, those are like fighting words to me. I love these books so much. Like, I totally understand that. Like, no, but they're so good. How could you say that?
I'm sure they're good, and I'm really enjoying them as a television show. I think I'll watch the whole show and then hopefully be so moved by it that I'll go back and get the deeper experience of the book.
Eck, are you into The Expanse at all? Either way?
No, I want to be now, though. I'm kind of excited. It's definitely
it's
right
great.
up my alley.
It's really, really great. And the book was great. It just was like, I know. I saw this episode.
You already know what's coming.
Yeah.
All right. Lemony Snicket, the 8-episode series of unfortunate events, premieres January 13th on Netflix. And there's another trailer out for that as well. If you want to see more pieces of that. The first Fate of the Furious trailer is out, which is the next in the Fast and Furious. They dropped the number now. It's going to be called Fate of the Furious.
Well, it's F8.
Good point.
Get it?
Good point.
F8.
You spell it with a number 8, so they didn't really drop the number. And NBC's Powerless has changed from being an insurance company to being a subsidiary of Wayne Enterprises, which means that the series will be about people selling protection to people from people like their owner, Bruce Wayne.
I am not.
Spoiler: Bruce Wayne is Batman.
Yeah, I'm not bent out of shape about this. Like as from what I could see on
This
this,
is funny.
this is a comedy show, right? I mean, one of my favorite comic books when I was a kid was Damage Control, which was about the people who clean up. It's like the guys in hard hats who repair the damage. They're like the doozers of the Marvel universe and the hijinks that they had. It seems like this is trying to be the same thing. And somebody says, well, why don't we tie it into the DC universe? So we're like, oh, well, we could just say it's in the DC universe. And then someone in some board meeting said, well, we're kind of going to hit the people over the head with the fact that it's in the DC universe. Why don't we make it a Wayne something? And then they did it. And then people are making hay like, that makes him an extortionist, which I'm not.
Except that theoretically, no one who works for him knows that.
Yeah, right.
So this is just Bruce Wayne,
right.
as you
true.
were talking about Netflix earlier, making a very proper business decision.
You know what? If it makes you feel better, let's pretend the backstory was they're doing a good thing and they're about to fail and go out of business. And Bruce Wayne bought them for $1 billion, giving them a giant cash infusion that made their continued service to the public possible. Hey, Bruce Wayne, you're a hero.
It's only graft if Batman goes out of his way to destroy things.
Yes, but
Right.
never mind.
No one will be angry.
Eck,
if they
are you
find
in
out
on
it's
this?
Batman. Right. No one's gonna be angry.
Are you in on this one?
Yeah, I'm definitely in on this one. I love the comic that you're talking about too, Brian. I forgot what it was called, but I remember reading it as a kid. And I was trying to find it the other day for my son, so I'm so glad you brought the name up.
One of my favorite things was there was like a 3-panel gag where they're sitting there digging in the background. He knocks over a boulder, one of the foremen, and meanwhile the engineer's talking and pointing, and then the guy reaches over to the glowing object he finds there, and he turns around and he goes, "No, don't touch it!" And then instantly there's a flash of light, and he's like He-Man, and he goes, "I am Groknar, I've been awakened," and then he flies off, and he's like, we lose more men that way.
That's awesome.
All right, let's talk about what we are actually watching, starting with you, Eck. What has been filling your eyeballs?
Yeah, I know. I always watch different things than you guys. So, but I've been watching a couple fun things. I started watching I watched the entire series of Being Erica, which now I covered the World Cup of hockey up in Canada in the summer, and while I was up there every night on the CBC, I would watch reruns of this show called Being Erica, and it's about it. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it at all. Have you heard of it at all?
No, tell me more.
Oh, it's so good. First of all, it's a time travel show, which is interesting to everybody out there, I'm sure. But basically, it's a woman who goes through a terrible thing in the beginning. A therapist comes up to her and says, "I'm a therapist. You can come to me." And the therapist has the ability to send her back in time to fix events in her life that she wants to fix.
And is this actually happening, or this is like in her mind? She's
No,
going
it's
back.
actually happening.
Oh, right on.
So everything. So you have the whole, except her brother died. You can't change that, and she tries to change that, and everything goes crazy. There are certain rules, but it's the best time travel show I personally have ever watched, as far as the way of doing the whole thing of what it affects later. But also, what's great about it is so many times, it's so well written and so smart that so many times she goes back and wants to fix something and realizes when she's there that she probably doesn't want to do it the other way. And there's a reason she didn't do it the other way in the first place, and she doesn't change it, which is always fascinating. So the show is
I was
going to
say,
Erica.
because
It's on
time
Hulu.
travel could turn into a crutch for avoiding actually dealing with her issues, but it sounds
Right.
like they even take that into account.
Right. No, it can, but it's careful not to do that. It really is. It's really smarter than that. And it's so well done that it just, you can't stop watching it. It's so well written. I can't believe it wasn't a bigger show. It's on Hulu now for free. So it's just called Being Erica, and it's a Canadian show, like I said, but definitely incredibly well done.
Awesome. What about you, Tom?
Well, is that it, Ek? Is that everything you wanted to mention?
The other one I wanted to really mention was the White Rabbit Project, which I've been watching on Netflix.
Oh, it's out. Talk on it.
It's out now, yes. So I am an enormous MythBusters fan. My family watches MythBusters every night. My kids have fallen asleep to MythBusters since they were born. That's the show they want to watch when they're ready to go to sleep. So MythBusters, this is Carrie, Tori, and Grant from MythBusters. It's produced by the producers of MythBusters, doing it's a great show. There's 10 episodes on Netflix. It's different than MythBusters. There are some similarities where they test some things out. But the first one is basically what they test 6 things out and try to determine which is the closest to being an actual superhero power. And they go through it is really well done. I just love these guys. I mean, I know I haven't read any of the reviews or see what anybody else likes or dislikes about it, but because I think it only came out a couple days ago, maybe this weekend. But yeah, we've loved it already. We've already watched 6 episodes. It's really worth watching.
Fantastic.
I want to put in another good word for This Is Us. I haven't mentioned it every week, but we've been continuing to watch it. It just had its mid-season finale, so you can go catch up with it on Hulu and get caught up for when it comes back in the spring or early winter, I guess, late winter. But it is a classic television drama, but told with good writers who understand all of the things that make your eyes roll about television drama and do their best to avoid them. And I think it's just fantastic. If you don't want a television family drama at all, then this is not for you. But if you're like, hey, I've always thought television family dramas were fine, but they were just so cliche. This is the opposite of that. So go check it out. We also saw La La Land this week, which is, again, taking the classic form of a 50s and 60s movie musical, along the lines of Gene Kelly, Fred Astaire, etc., and doing it with Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling and setting it in Los Angeles in the modern day and not having a Hollywood ending. So kind of the same thing, taking a classic form and trying to avoid the cliches while paying homage to all kinds of musical tropes, all kinds of Hollywood film tropes, and amazing songs. So I would say if you can stomach a musical or even love them, you definitely want to check that out.
I totally agree with you on This Is Us, Tom. It's
you've been
incredible.
watching it too.
The first episode too, I think, is one of the best first episodes of a series in a long time.
It absolutely hooks you.
It's an it really caught me. I did not know what was happening, and so if you don't know what's happening, and no one's ever told you what happens, the first episode in itself would be a great movie. Just as the way they turn it, the way it turns is incredible.
Brian, what about you?
So now that Westworld's over, we don't have an automatic go-to couples watch with Bonnie and I. So we went back to start watching The Prophet again on CNBC, and it's so it is so a reality show. All of the tropes are there. Got to get somebody to cry. Got to talk about how things were going to be good, but now they're terrible. But now some money's going to save the day. At times, their conversations sound like they took individual words and chopped them out from each other. But now that we're doing more production, I'm sitting here noticing stuff like I'm like, ooh, drone shot. Ooh, it's like,
Isn't it crazy once you've done a couple drone shots and you're like, oh yeah, that's totally a drone. Like there's just some characteristic about it.
Yeah, sure. And then you notice stuff out of order, like, and Bonnie noticed it because she's like, this girl's in the middle of talking and she goes, that girl was just crying. And then sure enough, it cuts to the part where she cried because they needed to make it. She was speaking clearly later in the conversation. So it's great. The Prophet's great. Also, we watched the first episode of the 3% and we watched another episode of Justified. We'll talk about it in spoiler in time.
Bryce, what have you been on the lookout for?
Hey, I found this on Netflix last night, and I only clicked on it out of nostalgia. I remember I spent a whole weekend watching a marathon of this with my family, and it was weird because for what it is, it's probably not the thing we would have binged watched back in 2004 or 2005. It's the 4400. Do you guys know about this?
Yeah, that's the one where like a whole bunch of people show up out of nowhere or something, or they vanished and then come back.
Yeah. So like over the previous 50 years, people have just randomly disappeared without a trace, and then one day in the present, this big ball of light shows up in Seattle, and all 4,400 of them are back.
Like from different times and everything too, right?
Right. And what you find out in the first episodes is that they've come back with kind of some sort of supernatural ability, and that they're trying to reintegrate back into society that is kind of not sure about them and their powers and all of the problems that their disappearances have caused. But it's a really good drama, and it reminds me almost of X-Men, of just sort of the others,
everybody
sort of
discovering their powers.
Yeah,
and whatnot. Yeah,
and I think it's really good. There are 44 episodes now on Netflix. They're all hour longs, but they're really good. It's a dated show. I mean, it's from 04 through 07. So you get a lot of the big clunky phone, the big flip phones and whatever.
Flip phones, feature phones.
Yeah.
Pre-iPhone days.
But I started watching it again, and I was shocked at how immediately gets to the point, right? Like we've talked about The Leftovers and what was the Australian show that I got you to watch, Fry?
The Glitch.
The Glitch.
Yeah.
And both of those kind of string out sort of the premises and like what is happening. And in this one, very quickly, they're like, okay, these are all people who had disappeared over time, and like
which by the way is one of the things I appreciate about the 3%, and we'll talk more about that in spoiler in time after.
Yeah, but it's like it gets into it so that it can just get into all these different dramatic stories of people who are coming back into time with these powers, and then as the show goes on, it gets political, and you actually get a lot of answers on what happened to the people and their powers. I think it's really cool. So check that out, the 4400.
If you got something we should be on the lookout for, you're going to want to email us, cordkillers@gmail.com. Real quick, before we get into the front lines, I want to tell you about a new venture that many of you might be interested in. It's a television rewatch series, rewatching Twin Peaks in anticipation of the return of Twin Peaks to Showtime sometime in 2017, called Damn Fine Podcast.
Oh, that's adorable.
DamnFinePodcast.com.
It's in the font of Twin Peaks because he likes the damn fine coffee.
Yes, it is. This is Ron Richards and myself doing the rewatch. We're 3 episodes in, so it's not too late to jump back in. You can jump back in at any time and watch along with us, or if you've watched them a lot, you can just reminisce with us, and we'll be doing it every week between now and whenever they decide to launch the Showtime show. And of course, once the Showtime show comes, then we'll be covering that and talking about our impressions and thoughts about it every week. So get subscribed at damnfinepodcast.com.
Right on. Congratulations.
Now, thank you. It's the front lines.
Front lines.
Netflix is nominated for 5 TV Golden Globes, but that's down from last year by 3. And then there was 1 film nomination for Netflix this year. Amazon had 5 TV nominations and 6 film nominations, 2 different films, 5 for one, 1 for the other. Hulu didn't get any nominations this time around, and HBO has 14 nominations. So we've talked about this a lot, how it went from like, oh my gosh, a cord cutting service got a nomination to like lots of them got nominations to it's normal for them to get nominations. And now I guess, Brian, we're in the ebb and flow of like who got more than the other.
Yeah, it makes me wonder retroactively if, there are those years where it's like Shakespeare in Love wins Best Picture instead of Saving Private Ryan, and you're like, what were they thinking? Like, I wonder how many of the early ones to get nominations were in some small part of in the back
Subconscious.
Subconscious, like, kind of like, come on, little guys, you can make good content. Look, I'll nominate you. You think? Yeah.
Netflix got nominated for The Crown and Stranger Things, if people are curious. Amazon got Mozart in the Jungle, Transparent, and Goliath. And for films, Netflix's Divines got 1 nomination. That's foreign language. Amazon's The Salesman got a foreign language. And then Manchester by the Sea got 5 nominations. There's even Oscar buzz around that one.
Wow. Meanwhile, there's another honor that goes to Amazon because the first 3 episodes of Amazon's The Grand Tour have been illegally downloaded a total of 20.7 million times, according to analysts at anti-piracy film Musso. This is believed to make it the most illegally downloaded program of all time.
In the game of torrents, you get downloaded the most, or you're second place.
Sucks for them.
All the free advertising and the fact that everyone loves their product. Yeah, it really sucks for them. Have you seen it yet?
The crazy thing is, I'm pretty sure Amazon could have avoided this by releasing the Grand Tour globally at the same time. Like, I'm certain they could have done that if they wanted to.
Oh,
They decided to release it in its existing markets for Amazon Prime with the promise that it would come to other markets like Australia. And they even did a thing, Peter Wells and I talked about it on DTNS Day 6, about like giant heads sculpted out of something that were being carried in the water in Sydney Harbor. Like this almost feels like they don't mind that because, like you say, Brian, it's good publicity.
Well, and keep in mind, we talked about how HBO very bizarrely forced a black market to exist by refusing to have any digital method to watch Game of Thrones. They weren't very aware what they were doing, and they kind of soaked in the notoriety. And in fact, some of the execs in casual interviews mentioned that it's quite an honor to be the most pirated thing in the world. Part of me wonders if maybe, just maybe, Amazon, had their eye on that crown and maybe in some way decided, wouldn't it be great if ours was the most popular stolen property?
We get Manchester by the Sea nominated. We get the most pirated movie. We get all the awards.
I mean, in an industry where you want to attract talent, those are okay things to tell people, right?
Exactly. No, there's no question about it. You're 100% right, Brian. That this is so, it's such a funny, stupid game they're playing, but it really is a game.
Nuke Jello asks a good question in the chat room. He says, wasn't Amazon going to launch Prime Video globally this month? They haven't said that. What they've said is that the Grand Tour would be available to view in many global markets this month. But they haven't really said when, and they hadn't said anything about Amazon Prime Video service. So we're still kind of waiting on that. National Amusements is the company that owns the majority share of both CBS and Viacom. It is run by the 95-year-old Sumner Redstone, 95 or 93. Well, he's up there. Either way. National Amusements has withdrawn its merger proposal for the two companies as of Monday. So CBS and Viacom, which were separated 10 years ago, will remain separated. This also frees CBS to go looking for somebody else to snuggle up with.
Such a swinger, CBS. Just a swinger of a network.
Sassy lass. In the meantime, Hulu allows up to 6 profiles now to be created per account, though at launch it only works on the website. The profiles will keep separate viewing history, watch list, and recommendations. There's also a kids-specific profile that will exclude adult shows. Thank you, Hulu. It's too late for me. Go on, new Hulu subscribers, for my account is too polluted with Ninja Turtles.
Go now. There are other profiles than these.
Yes.
Can I bring up something that I never thought of? Like, how Netflix has separate subscribers. So I'll take an extension. Remember the old days? Like
Yeah,
extension?
sure.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So I'll take an extension. No, but remember, so Netflix obviously has separate subscribers, and we all got into recently Parks and Recreation, which we never watched when it was live. I didn't like the first season, but someone told me to start midway through the second season, and we loved it. But my daughter watched it at a different pace than we did. And the greatest thing about having separate accounts is the fact that we could all pace ourselves on the same show and yet watch it together. So my daughter would come back and watch with us episode she'd already watched, but she finished it like 3 weeks before us because she has more time on her hands. But yeah, I think that's the greatest thing about that.
You know what? That's a really good point, because it had never even occurred to me to split my Netflix account away from Bonnie's Netflix account. But then like watching Stranger Things at different rates, like just the fact of opening seeing the first cold open or whatever, she's like, well, now I know a thing, you know.
Right. It works incredibly well. And it was just so easy. It's like, oh yeah, we'll watch it on our account because you're ahead of us, right? Yeah, sure, that's good. We got it.
Good point.
Netflix is going to, in fact, is showing video previews while you're browsing through the library on the television and set-top box versions of its app. This doesn't happen on mobile or desktop versions. Previews offer a synopsis of the content and only start after you've paused on a title for a few seconds.
What do you think of that? Is that click tricky? Is that like Netflix or Facebook's live or video counts where it's like, yeah, you're pretty much watching it. You're watching it.
It's on the edge, you know. It is on the edge, and it shows that Netflix is being a little ballsy, I must say. Like they're confident enough to do it.
Well, they're certainly not doing it to raise their stream counts like Facebook is.
Right, they're not. But it's still the kind of thing that people will complain about.
These are not like when you pause on the episode listing and it starts playing the episode. This is a trailer.
Yeah.
Sure. But you know what they're doing is they're causing the very act of lingering to be an early form of commitment. It becomes a commitment device where it's like, wait, you're only watching the first 3 seconds, 5 seconds. Well, this looks interesting, and then you're seduced in. And because right now you just have a thumbnail, and you're like, well, am I committing to this? Because I know the moment it starts weaving its spell, I'm going to get sucked in for the next hour.
I had it happen to me this week, and I actually moved off faster because of it.
Yeah,
I was like, oh crap, no, I don't want to sit here and watch this. Get me out of here. I'm just browsing around. I'm just browsing.
My wife was complaining that she thought she had done something wrong. Why is this starting? I didn't touch anything.
Yeah, and it plays audio too. Yeah. Like it plays audio, which is like why I don't like when it happens, because I want to get off of it so I can just keep looking over my list.
I just want to mouse over the sexy movie. I don't want to hear dialogue that my wife can hear as she's walking by. Are you watching that sexy movie? Google has made more than 125 movies available in 4K to buy or rent from the Google Play Store. They work with Chromecast Ultra, Sony Bravia, Android TV, and Xiaomi Mi boxes. Did I say that right?
Yeah, you almost nailed it.
No,
Xiaomi.
almost. All right.
Nicely done.
All right.
Yeah, 4K. Buy or rent it from the Google Play Store. Woohoo! Now it's time for dispatches from the front.
Hard-hitting analysis, Tom. That's what we do.
I worked a long time on that one. Do you mind if I take this first email?
Please.
Sweaty from my daily workout, I sat down in front of my locker, cooling off to some Cordkillers. I opened my locker, pulled out my kid's iPad mini. Then I launched Netflix and checked to see if all the episodes of Rescue Bots had finished downloading off the gym's Wi-Fi. This never happens to me, but at that exact time, I heard the voice of Tom Merritt speaking directly into my ear holes and asking for my opinion about the new Netflix feature, Divine Providence. I'm a dairy farmer.
Bit of a left turn there.
Remember when you were 12 and you would read the ramblings of dairy farmers?
I'm a dairy farmer and former software consultant living in Olympia, Washington. I have no access to cords, no television, no internet except LTE. Netflix changed the game when it offered downloadable content because now I can go to any place sharing their internet with my tablet, download the shows my family wants to watch legitimately, and then watch them in the comfort of my own smelly farm. Sounds a little like watching what I want, where I want, on whatever damn device I want. Sincerely, Chris.
Yeah, well
Best
done.
email ever, Tom.
Standing ovation for that rendition. That was
I
amazing.
feel like I should smoke a cigarette or something.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Yannick writes, "Hi guys, you guys scared me. When you mentioned the new Netflix offline download feature in this week's episode, you said that episodes would only be available for 72 hours. I downloaded a bunch of Netflix originals last weekend in preparation for a week-long European trip and thought it would all be gone. Checked out my iOS device, which has been offline since I downloaded the content, and thankfully all the episodes are still there and I could watch them. Searching online, I only saw references to a 72-hour time limit on Amazon Prime offline viewing, not on Netflix. Was that a mistake, or perhaps only Netflix originals don't have a time limit? You also asked why people would be interested in this feature. I travel regularly within North America and abroad, and being able to download content and view it on a plane or hotels with spotty Wi-Fi is a dream come true. It's just too bad that all the Netflix Marvel series are not available for offline viewing. Thanks for the podcast.
Yeah, well, he's in Montreal, so I wonder if it's different there, or if it was if we were just misinformed. We were going off someone who said they ran into the limit, or maybe it was there and it went away. There is a limit on the number of devices you can download on. That has been confirmed. Mashable even has a screenshot of that. So if you download episodes on your phone, no one else on that Netflix account, including multiple profiles, can download anything until you've gotten rid of them from your phone.
Yeah, meanwhile, Rob says, I have a 3-hour commute and to and from work each day on the train, and I'm a pay-as-you-go mobile plan with Ting. But even if cost weren't an issue, wireless coverage on the train route is spotty at best, and commuter rail's public Wi-Fi is a joke. So watching movies offline is the only cost-effective means of wasting exorbitant amounts of time during the workday. What else would you have me do? Work? Ha! Nonsense.
Yeah. So, I'm sorry, we skipped one and I was trying to move it, but I'm just going to read it. Unless I screwed it up just now. My sister and brother-in-law were excited for car trips. They regularly drive 8 to 10 hours in Texas and 15 hours to go skiing in New Mexico with their kids, 12 and 9, and assorted cousins 2 years old to 14 years old. Problem is spotty coverage in the middle of nowhere, Texas. They aren't Cordkillers yet because sports. So they don't have Amazon.
Good point. And meanwhile, Rob says, Dear employees, Tom, Brian, and Bryce, I'm a frequent user of the download feature on Amazon Prime Video and now Netflix, and I can say for me it is huge. I take commuter rail to work, and by the way, there was a ton of people who all chimed in. They're like, commuter rail, I take a bus, I take a carpool, and that's when I want to tune everyone out and watch. Having the ability to download stuff to watch makes the hour-long train ride downright enjoyable. With the family at home keeping me busy, frankly, it's about the only time I have to watch TV all by myself. That's a really good point. Streaming via the mobile network doesn't really work, and he goes on to list all the same reasons. And he says, one thing to note, the Stars add-on for Amazon does not offer the download feature. I was excited to watch Ash vs. Evil Dead on the train, but quickly saw there was no option to download, so I canceled the trial. I'm guessing the other add-on services work the same way. You know what? That is a problem, but consider it a blessing in disguise. As someone who's seen Ash vs. Evil Dead, I can't imagine what your fellow passengers would think when they casually glimpse what you're staring at out of context.
Good to know. So yeah, thanks for all the feedback on downloadable streaming services and the uses for them. Ek, I'm curious if that is something that you find yourself needing to use or not.
I do, because I travel a lot. Obviously, I'm in planes a lot, and this isn't obviously, but I am in planes a lot, and yeah, I've used it all the time. You know, what's the funny thing? The oddest thing is there are some great apps. I have a Windows phone still. I don't use it as my main phone, but I have a really nice Windows phone. That's a big Windows phone that I use as like just a device. And the apps on Windows Phone for downloading are just amazing. I don't know why it is, but for whatever reason, I use that usually to download from Netflix, from YouTube, from Hulu, or I think it's Hulu. Yeah, I think it's Hulu. There's maybe not, but the other two for sure, and I've other things as well. I do love that service, and for some reason, I don't know if they don't care about Windows Phone enough to really to do anything about it. But there are some great apps left on Windows Phone still that do things really, really well.
Finally, we got an email that says, hey guys, I'm sure that DirecTV will get better over time, but I tried it for 7 days and quickly backed out. I could not get it running on my Apple TV the first day. It kept asking for locations, and when I clicked OK, it would take me right back to asking for locations. I gave up. 2 days later, I tried again, got the location taken care of. I'm 35 miles from Seattle, so over the air is great. Now it told me that DirecTV Now was not offered in foreign countries. And when returned, I could sign up. The next day, I finally got it running. It's not really cheaper. View is cheaper with a few less channels. And I think he says that because there is a $30 version of PlayStation View if it doesn't include your local stations. And that must be the case here. DirecTV Now does what DirecTV always has done and offers a bunch of channels you're not going to watch. I also did not like the vertical channel menu. I use a PlayStation 3 with a remote to watch PlayStation View. The menu is great and horizontal. You can select a show and put it into my channels, and later you can check it, and it will tell you if there's a new episode. I watch all of Mr. Robot this way, and I'm still using Sling TV, but I may quit that soon. It's easier to watch many of the channels I like, but View is just a better deal and better performance. I'm sure DirecTV Now will get better over time, but it has a long ways to go to equal View.
Can I throw one thing out about PlayStation View for the cord cutters out there who are sports people, especially because that's my thing. PlayStation View really takes that whole sports excuse out of it. I mean, at least for me, because Comcast Sportsnet is on PlayStation View, which is where my local teams are, and my local channels where I had to watch football and everything like that is on PlayStation View. So I no longer have to have cable at all because of that reason, because of the sports thing. So just something. I know Comcast Sportsnet is not available in all of the DirecTV. Some of the DirecTVs have Comcast Sportsnets in some areas because there's different ones. Like I think the San Francisco area is on there on Comcast Sportsnet, right? For DirecTV, but it isn't, I don't think, for PlayStation View. So you have to check to make sure what is there. But if you're in the right area, PlayStation View can be the perfect solution for cord cutters who really need to watch sports.
Yeah, we get Fox Sports West on PlayStation View here in LA. We have a weird thing with the Dodgers owning a network that isn't anywhere except on Spectrum. So we don't get that, but that's also true if you're on Comcast down in LA too. So there's something weird about it. But yeah, I agree. The only thing that DirecTV Now has that I really wish was on PlayStation View is MLB Network. And
NHL Network too, Tom. Yeah, same thing. That's on Sling TV and DirecTV, but not on PlayStation View. I agree. And you know what's funny about Philadelphia is Comcast, owns the Flyers and the Phillies. So when you throw that into play as well, they don't block them, but maybe they can't because of all the crazy rules. But they don't block them.
I've been having a bunch of buggy things with DirecTV Now. I tried to turn it on the other day, and it wouldn't let me change the channel away from A&E. It just didn't load the guide.
We'll watch A&E.
And if the guide doesn't load, you can't change channels. So it was like, that's it. That's all you get to do. And then another time I loaded it up and it told me that I had 2 other devices already streaming DirecTV Now, and there weren't. There was no other devices streaming DirecTV Now at that point. So it does have some issues. But this locational issue that he mentions here, Bryce, you were saying that you've run into that yourself?
Yeah, it's not even an issue for me so much, but I have Google Fiber at my apartment, and so I guess maybe the IP stuff is weird, but like Hulu will give you like your local affiliate for your station. So I get the Detroit ABC station there. When I go to PBS on the web, it tries to set the local Detroit PBS as my
weird.
My local. It's weird, but also it's Google Fiber, so it's like so I don't know if there's an ISP thing that could.
You
be
could
going
use
on
a
with
VPN that locates you in Texas to fix that.
Would that maybe overkill? I don't think I have that big of an issue.
Yeah, that's interesting. So Brian, you haven't tried out DirecTV Now yet, huh?
No, and I really should. I need to consolidate all of my. I think I'm not even aware of how many things I'm signed up for at the moment. It's like I think I still have Sling TV, but I'm not using it because there are no shows that I have to have it for.
You still have Stars?
HBO, yes. Well, I'm still watching Ash vs. Evil Dead, but then I still have HBO. So now it's one of those things where it's like I got to do a reboot. I got to go through my credit card statement. I got to and just cancel everything and then bring it back. Which, by the way, nowadays is easier than ever. If anyone's worried about it, just try canceling literally everything. And then the very next minute, decide what do I want to watch right this minute, and where can I get it, and then just go get it, and then keep doing that, and slowly it'll build into a giant, barnacle covered sea voyage, and you'll decide it's time to scrape off all the barnacles and start again.
But no, it's amazing how you can, in fact, do that. I mean, I had some troubles with Sling TV trying to cancel the kids package that I had added so that I could watch Star Wars Rebels on Disney XD. The interface wasn't working, and they were giving me the runaround on customer service for a while. So, I lost $5 one month, maybe 10 over 2 months. But most of the time, I mean, that's an exception. Other times I've changed the Sling TV package have been fine. And most of the time it's really easy. You just turn it on, turn it off.
It really is. And PlayStation View, with that location thing, it's funny. I travel with my PlayStation 4 quite often, and we'll hook PlayStation View into wherever I am. And it'll just ask me what area code I'm in, and I'll put my home area code. And sometimes it'll say, oh, you're not there. And sometimes it'll say, fine. And I'll be watching local Philadelphia TV in, in Texas. It's just
Well,
crazy.
yeah, because
So
we talked to you about when you took it camping that one
the
time.
first
and they
time,
cut
I
you
know, and it's
off.
funny. Last time I
Yeah.
was on the show, we talked about that, right? It was when I
Yeah.
took it to the Shore House. We have a place in Margate, which is only 60 miles from here, and it's also Philadelphia TV, but wouldn't let me do it down there. And I actually got in a fight with them, and they canceled it altogether. They thought I was somehow stealing things, so they canceled. I had to wait 3 months to get PlayStation View back. I was put in prison for a while there.
Man. And
But
yet
I love
you
it now. I
returned.
think it's the best DVR by far of any of them.
Definitely.
I've tried them
Yeah.
all, but the PlayStation View DVR is just it just does it. It just works. It's one of those things.
It works way better than it did at launch, and they have so many more authentication options, so many more channels. So the only thing they don't have is Viacom. If you're into MTV or any of the Viacom channels, it's not going to work for you there because they're having some kind of dispute, it seems like. Well, thank you, Ek, for joining us. Hockey Buzzcast is now on Patreon, folks. Go if you are a hockey fan or if you just like Ek, which is all of you. Go to patreon.com/hockey and check it out and throw a couple of dollars his way.
You're very kind. I appreciate that. Yes, we are having a slow launch there, but with hockey fans, Canadians apparently don't want to pay anything for their podcasts, but we'll find out. Maybe eventually we'll get there.
We'll just get Justin Trudeau to give you like $1 billion Canadian. Then
I actually met him once. It's very funny.
Wow.
I actually got to meet Justin Trudeau at the World Cup of Hockey and Shawn Mendes at the same time, the singer. Very strange,
Wow.
but yeah.
Wow.
And, so that's my little name dropping for you there. Yeah.
check it out.
And with that, a mic drop.
Patreon.com/hockey. Our website is cordkillers.com. Our email address is cordkillers@gmail.com. We're live on diamondclub.tv Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. We'll cut your cord next time.
Hey guys, Tom and Brian here. We just wanted to say thank you to all of our $5 patrons who keep us loud, live, and independent. You guys make Cordkillers the production that it is.
Your name appears in the video credits and appears in our hearts. And if you'd like to become one of them or see who they are, you can go to patreon.com/cordkillers.
You'll need to do more than just go there, though. You'll have to sign up and, pledge an amount. But
Unless you just want to see who they are.
Well, I mean, you could gawk. That's a little creepy, isn't it?
If you want to be a gawker,
Let's go.
it's up to you.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.